Hey, good evening, everybody. John Henry Soto here, along with George Batista, and welcome to Counterparts. We are very excited. We have Teryl Rothery. He's going to be on the show tonight, and we have some amazing things that I want to ask her because that's kind of how I that's how I do the show, right? Like, I gotta ask her something about this. But we're very, very excited to have her on here, and we're gonna be coming right back after you dance a little bit to some of our jazz. Alrighty, and we are back. Thank you very much I hope you danced a little. Hope you didn't pull anything. But we are very excited to be here this evening. And first, we have to take care of our sponsor. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. George and tell us something nice.
Something nice. Thank you, sir. So the Counterparts show is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family-owned and operated nutritional supplement company providing the highest quality clinically formulated supplements since 1985. Find out why Wellness Resources supplements are the top choice of conscious individuals around the world. Go to myvitaminresource.com, enter the promo code Counterparts, and you will receive free shipping on any size order. Cool. All right. So let's talk a little bit about our guest today. We're so excited. We have Teryl Rothery here. So Teryl is a Canadian actress of stage, television, and film. She is best known for portraying Janet Fraiser in the TV series Stargate SG-1, which she co-starred as Grace Sherman in Hallmark Channel's original series Cedar Grove, as well as had major roles in other shows such as Virgin River, Arrow, and Nancy Drew. Teryl has received 4 Leo Award nominations, including Best Supporting Performance by a Female in a Dramatic Series for her past recurring roles in Global's The Guard. Aside from her acting career, Teryl is an intuitive coach, helping clients to tap into the deepest parts of themselves to discover what may be holding them back from being the best version of themselves that they can be. We are absolutely excited to have her. So without further ado, please welcome Teryl Rothery.
Yay!
And the band start.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wasn't that nice? I love the music, and oh my gosh, George, your voice, isn't he amazing? Yeah. Everything is so distinct.
That's why he does that role.
You should be on stage. You should be doing Shakespeare.
Oh wow!
I know, George. You know, I mean, I'm the little Puerto Rican and I'm the actor, and yet here he is looking like this.
I've never acted in my life, but yet, you know, I should be doing Shakespeare. Imagine me doing like Hamlet or something like that.
Just because I know you and we grew up together. George and I are cousins, so we grew up together.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so it would be kind of hilarious for me to see, but I think you can definitely pull it off. Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us. This is such a joy, and we have the way we do it. George is very like organized, you know, you can tell. He's got his questions, he's got everything. So and then I like to kind of free flow and kind of hear the question, you know, hear the response, and then maybe something will trigger. So we kind of have that kind of going for us. But I'm going to turn it over to George for our first question for you, and then we're just going to get rock and roll in here.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. So first of all, again, you know, we talked a little bit about it, but you know, what we do on this show is we try to we talk to artists and talk about their journey, and we want to show other artists and viewers who are watching this show, you know, this is how you can overcome obstacles, and kind of give them a blueprint of what people who have been successful in that industry, whatever industry, you know, what they did and what their mindset was. So that's kind of the premise of what we do here. But I want to know from you, obviously, you've been very successful in acting. When you started out, when you were young, was acting always your passion? Did you do anything else, or was it just, you know, straight ahead?
That's all I ever wanted to do was to perform.
Okay.
It's so funny, and I say this all the time when I'm chatting with people or they ask me questions. From the time I was 4, when people would say to me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I didn't know the term actor, thespian, you know, theater, none of that. It was just going to be a movie star. That's all I ever wanted to be was a movie star. And there was nothing that was in my way. Like even throughout school, there was I can't even begin to describe how it was just like this. And people would say, you know, your aunts, uncles, whatever, are you sure? Now, what about, do you have something to fall back on? And I would always say, no. Why? This is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Like, there was just never a question. So yes, that's all I've ever wanted to do, and which is really interesting, because for those who have read different things about me, I was debilitatingly shy. Like,
Really?
oh my gosh, incredibly shy. It was insane, really. And that's how this all started. My grandmother decided to put me into, I was a great performer at home. I was amazing. I had to put on shows all the time, but so anyway, my grandmother decided to put me into dance because my cousin was going to go in, and she said, why don't you do this? She was thinking this would maybe, you know, bring me out of my shell. And all these years later, she's cursing herself because she's, you know, been trying to stuff me back in to that shell. But, yeah, so I went into dance, and it was interesting, guys, because I would be in the wings, you know, on stage before a competition or performance, and nervous, really, really nervous. And then as soon as I would hit the stage, the lights, the music, and I knew what I was going to do, that was it. It was like I became this different person.
Wow.
And applause, when the applause would happen or whatever. And then as soon as I get back to the wings, I'd be shy again. So it was like my way of finding my voice, right?
Yeah.
And then as I got older with the performing, I also discovered, isn't it fun if I was at a party, if I could just be funny, I'll just be funny and I'll make them laugh. And then that would also put me at ease, right? So yeah, that's how that all came to be, just crazy shy.
Wow, that's amazing. And, you know, it's one of the themes that we have is that directional viewpoint, you know, that kind of like whatever anyone else is saying, what do you have to fall back on? You know, are you sure you want to, you're going to put all your eggs in one basket? You know, all the cliches and all the comments that people make. But yet there's always this, I believe it's a spiritual thing. I believe it's a purpose thing. It's been there, you know, who knows how long. But it's this journey that is just like, you know what, just throw whatever you want at me. I'm still going in this direction, you know. And for so many people, it's so difficult, you know. Did you have a supportive family as well? I see your grandmother was definitely pushing you in that direction.
I was raised by my grandparents, so she was like my mom.
Too,
so
actually.
You too?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
John, look at us.
Yes.
Both actors, both.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing? I hear so many stories of this sort of thing happening. It's interesting. Oh my gosh, I would love to get into the psyche of all of that stuff, how that happens, but, right?
It's
George is like, oh, please, you two, don't.
Not now.
That's another show,
right?
But yeah, she was extremely supportive, and she always has. Well, both my grandparents would always say, just you have to follow your dreams, and you just have to be happy and it was always do your best, do your best, do your best.
Yeah.
And that's what I grew up with, and, you know, being allowed to be myself and do what I wanted to do. Sometimes they would shake their heads, but, you know, it paid off. Yeah.
I will state also, my mother was very much involved in my life. She remarried and then had my brother and my sisters, which I'm very close to. So she was in my life and supportive, but my grandparents were really the ones that nurtured me and really took care of me, especially in a rough environment where I grew up. I grew up in the South Bronx during the 70s and the 80s, where things were a little cuckoo. But they gave me that support. And so, yeah, it's a whole different, like when you meet people that were raised by their grandparents, I always like, oh, we're part of a different thing. That
we're kindred spirits, right?
It doesn't really get spoken to. Again, we're not going to go there, but it does have to be. It has to be addressed at some point. Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, one of the things that you said that I identify with very much was that I was also painfully shy. I was the kid in in kindergarten when they were doing the head, shoulders, knees, and toes. I was in the back just sitting there and, not wanting to do anything, and this guy knows because he's known me all my life and he knew how painfully shy I was. So just to do this, and we, eventually we were musicians, we played, we toured, we did albums and all those things. But it's funny that you say when you got in front of the camera, when you performed, that everything changed. And the same thing for me. When I got on stage, it was like all of a sudden it was a completely different world for me. Yeah. And I just, I tapped into that, like John says, that spiritual thing. I tapped into that thing and I was all of a sudden able to communicate to the audience. And that was my way. But then as soon as I left that stage, I went back into my shell. So it's just pretty funny how that works.
What's your instrument? Is it a guitar? I saw the.
Well, I'm the drummer and he's the guitar player.
Oh, wow. So you had your kit to hide behind too, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Right. So, on a subconscious level, there was still kind of that fourth wall protecting you.
Exactly.
But did you do vocals as well, even in backup or lead?
A little bit. In different bands that I was in, I did do some backup vocals as well. But even that was tough for me. It was very tough. I mean, even again, people who talk to me now, they say, "Really, you were shy?" And I'm like, I'm still shy. I'm never going to be the guy that talks the most in the room. It's just not me.
Yeah.
Turned out to be the short Puerto Rican, turned out to be I turned out to be the one that won't shut up.
Yeah, he's the talker. Yes.
I actually I remember with George, and not to go into our, because we want to cover, we have stuff to cover, but I remember George didn't have a drum set and he wanted to play drums and I had a guitar and I was like, come on, we got to get your mother to get you a drum set, for your birthday,
Yes.
And that's how it all started, and again, we got to play and record albums and had a really great time with that. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that challenge. When did you decide? Because when you're dancing and you're kind of doing those, it's sort of like other people are in charge of getting you to the theater and bringing you to rehearsals. But there's that moment where suddenly you're like, oh, now it's just up to me. I have to get myself to auditions and to, meetings with agents and stuff like that. Do you remember that transition?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is I remember it was always on stage, and as I got older, I would drive in with other, friends who were older and were able to, they had the driver's license, that kind of thing. And that was fine. And going to dance class, and you find your own people, right? So then you start to get comfortable there. And absolutely, it starts to go away as you get older. A little bit of that shyness goes away. But I mean, George, I think you can attest to this. I still call myself, as I'm sure you do, the extroverted introvert.
Yes.
Right. It's absolutely. Like you're able to do both, where you were not as a little one, but as we mature, you can juggle both. So that was always on stage, and there was always that magic of the audience. I think when a lot of the transition happened was when I discovered what it was like for the camera. And again, it was in a dance situation, and it was we were recording. So right now we're in studios, so television shows, dancing. And I remember that camera lens and thinking, isn't this even more magical? Because instead of me it was like a kind of a protection in a way, because instead of me having to go out, right, and you mess up, it's live, right? You sort of, you have to go through it. But the beauty of this camera lens was, I can bring them into me.
Right.
They can come into me, and that didn't work. We get another take. So that's what comes to mind. I think I was about 16 when that happened, and that was like a big sort of turning point for me, loving the camera and just wanting to do nothing but that, and then of course juggling the two. But yeah, so that it would have been around 16.
Yeah, there's a magic in film, like I'll have to sometimes watch a film. I'm a filmmaker myself, and I'll have to watch a film like 2 or 3 times, because the first time I'm trying to get the story, but I get pulled off about like, how did they do that shot? Very interesting place to put the camera.
Yeah.
you know, and or even like that's a strange cut. Why did they do that?
Yeah.
And then I have to go back and watch it again and then watch it again. I watched The Irishman a bunch of times. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I have not seen it yet.
Yeah, it's long. It's 3 hours. You got to give yourself a week. But it's wonderful performances, and I think I've seen it like 10 times just for that same reason. I'm like, let me just pay attention to the story, John. Can you just take your brain off for a second and just be a consumer?
But don't you find, I'm in complete agreement, and I'm just like you in that way, because we think, well, where the hell was continuity on that one? That's what, why would they cut there? Well, their axis looks off on but to me, if the story is riveting,
right,
yes,
and the story is being told in such a way that for me, John, that goes away automatically, because I'm so caught up. I've got goosebumps when I think about it. When I'm so caught up in story, I don't have time to think where they, and then to the point where if there is a minuscule little thing, it's like I'm so caught up in story, and it's like it's like a whiplash pulling back, and it's like, where did that come from? And there, before I can even go there again, I'm back in, because I want to hear where we're going.
Right. Yeah, and that's why
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up The Irishman, because when I watched it, I was so engrossed in the story. And
did it hold you for like the full 3?
It held me for 3 hours. I watched it in one sitting the first time. Which I saw it thinking to myself, well, 3 hours, I'm not going to be able to sit here for 3 hours. Yeah. I sat through the whole thing, and it was like it was a breeze. It was just beautifully shot, beautifully acted. These veteran guys have been. So the characters weren't familiar, because you see like Goodfellas and then you see Casino, and you're like, okay, well, I know those kind of guys in that transition, but these were really different characters. So yeah, I totally get that, and it's such a wonderful experience to be able to at least look at a piece of work and know and appreciate what's behind the camera and behind the scenes, and how much work goes into putting sometimes just one character on camera. And all that goes on through it. So it is something that I love to be part of. George, you have a question?
No, yeah, I was just kind of adding to that, actually. But and it's true. I found myself, as I got older, really more into stories now, and movies with great stories versus when I was younger. But I find that nowadays, especially with the blockbusters and all that, there's something lost now. You're not seeing a lot of that like you used to. So I find myself kind of going back to a lot of older movies, or maybe the independent films that have some of these great stories and stuff like that. But yeah, I think a little bit, or again, I'm as just a layperson, I don't know much about film at all, but just watching him, I find myself just gravitating more to either independent or older stuff these days, because those stories hold me, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think there's a lot of series in the last, I would say, 10 years, maybe 5 years, that have really done really well. I think they realize, we can do a lot now.
Right.
We don't have to. It's not coming. In the 80s, it was like, oh, you're on TV, or in the 70s or something. And now it's like, no. Now, if you're on Netflix, if you're on one of these networks, it's a big deal, especially on these series. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, because I know with I can't remember the name now. This is why I should write things down. Virgin River.
I was just about to say, how many words?
I'm the organized one. You see, I'm the organized.
So with Virgin River, the reason I got into that show was because I was a huge fan of Northern Exposure, which kind of a lot of quirky characters, a lot of drama, but a lot of like little fun, and Virgin River had that same, what was that experience like? And we can, obviously there's a lot of other things in between there that we can jump around with, but that experience of being on a set that was really well written and was really well thought out. And, it's got to be such a joy to go to work and know that what you're going to say is going to mean something. And it's not just somebody just being like, I think this would be funny. And just for the 2-second giggle, and something that really is going to be a joy to watch for years to come.
Yeah, we're still on that. So season 4 is going to be airing July 20th. And then we will start shooting season 5 mid-July. So that's coming out. And it's fabulous. I love it. It's like
Yeah.
you say, I love the characters. There's so many, different characters on it, and working with all of these people has just been, a gift. My character works a lot with Annette O'Toole and Tim Matheson. I mean, with a lot of the town people as well, but they're just great. I mean, it's just such a treat to bring these characters to life, and finding that fine line where you kind of want to go bigger. And with Muriel, my character Muriel, I'm able to, which is great, because she is this,
she's
I like to call her misunderstood. She's she's looking for love. She just wants to be happy and noticed all the time. So I get to play a lot with her, and then so does Hope. I mean, Annette O'Toole's character, she gets to play around. So there's lots of fun stuff, and lots of, it's just a treat. And I literally I can't wait to go back. Like, we're all pretty excited. I can't wait to see the scripts. I can't wait till they come out. Yeah.
And you have a busy July too, because you got also Cedar Cove is coming out, I believe, July 18th.
Cedar Cove, we finished that a very long time ago.
Oh, okay. Is it airing on the 8th?
I think it's still airing in different places. We only shot 3 seasons of that. And that was even before, this is how long ago it is. Poor John's going, oh, please, Teryl, don't rub it in.
No.
And George is going, told you so, told you so.
Exactly.
To be organized like me.
Well, I saw right here, it's July 18th, but I think I'm just missing the year.
I think you're missing the year. Yeah. So When Calls the Heart is a Hallmark series, a period piece that is going into their, oh my gosh, now it's my turn to get called on it. I think they're in season 10, 11.
Wow.
I forget. It's they're way up there. So we were the first ones out of the gate. And then they came in as well, and they kept going, and we ended after 3. So that's where that was. But that was, again, one of those gift roles, speaking of the writing, where reading the part of Grace Sherman just was such a treat. It's like, it's so easy to walk into the skin of that character that oh my gosh, I had, again, the best time ever. Another one of my favorite characters. I loved it. And working with, Andy and such an amazing cast, Andy McDowell. And so it was great.
So cool.
We're hoping, we keep saying, wouldn't it be nice if they had a little reunion or a Christmas movie or something? Because there's still places those characters can go, which is, I think deep down, all of us would love that to happen. So
cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So speaking of obstacles, can you tell the story of your audition for Snakes on the Plane?
George, I used to like you. I'm going to take that back now.
Come on. That is a beautiful
you know what?
story.
It is freaking hysterical, but it's one that has to be done live to really get the full effect, but I will do my best. So it's Snakes on a Plane. Flight attendant. So, I'm wearing a skirt, the navy blue, like, we try to, dress accordingly, sort of. Blue high heels, like everything. And it's choppy because this flight attendant, so it's not like a through line of storytelling. It's choppy in that she's dealing with these, snakes. And so you're reacting to stuff that you've got to formulate in your mind. And we don't even, since the pandemic, we don't even go in for live auditions anymore. It's all, we self-tape. So this is going obviously way back when we're there, and there's a tripod and all this equipment and the casting director and everything is around you. And, I'm on a carpet at one point, and I was so into the character, and I've got to like jump across to try and save this baby because this snake is going to get the baby. And I'm doing the scene, and then I'm acting, everything is great. And I go from I'm trying to get like a full run. And then from the carpet, I hit the hardwood floor and I go. I'm up in the air in my skirt. I start to slide. I'm not embellishing. Slide across the floor. My legs spread. The skirt's now hiked up. One of the legs of the tripod is right in my crotch, essentially. Equipment is starting to fall. Camera operators trying to hold on to the camera and grabbing some of the other stuff. That's all. And he's like this. and there's dead silence. And then I hear the casting director, oh, are you okay? And it's like, you're, oh yeah, it's all good. And you're trying to pull down your skirt and, pull back any smidgen of class and decorum you can possibly find.
Right.
And it's like, well, I guess I did save that baby, but wow, what a way to go about it. How's the equipment? I mean, it was insane.
And cut.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just say I did not get the part.
Oh no!
But you kind of hope that it would have. They would have kept it and said, "You got to see this just for a blooper." And you kind of wish that the producers were like, "Oh, that poor woman. All right, let's we'll cast her." But yeah.
But it's great to hear stories like that, just because it shows. It shows obviously overcoming an obstacle, because you leave there and you're just like, oh my Lord. I don't even like to think about some of the auditions that I did that I screwed up so badly that I left there like sweating, getting on the elevator back down. I can't even press the button because my finger is shaking.
It's that thing where you wish a hole would just suddenly open up, right?
You just fall into it and just be gone, and it's over, and then you can't get it out of your mind, because now you're walking, you're having coffee, you're eating, you're on the subway,
and you're still reciting the lines,
and it's still going. Why did I do this? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that? And I'm trying to sleep. I can't. It is the worst. If you can overcome something like that, I think you can pretty much overcome anything.
Exactly.
I think
that is so true.
That is one of the things that we talk about here on the show a lot. I learned, but auditioning is one of those things, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about, because auditioning is such a weird thing, right? Because sometimes it really has no bearing on anything. It's just they want to see you, they want to meet you. Now things are a little bit different with the self tapes, but I heard this on this documentary that I saw, where the actor was talking about auditioning. You can go in there and the casting director, you'll remind the casting director or the director of his brother, which he likes, or you'll remind him of his brother, which he hates.
Right.
So you walk in, and whatever it is that's what the reaction is going to be. It doesn't matter how well you know your lines. It doesn't matter any of that. How do you approach? I mean, probably you don't audition as much now, but did you approach during those early years of auditioning, and then having that stuff when you mess one up and the repeating over and over in your head? How did you?
How I don't It's like you say. I remember this is years ago, walking into a room and I haven't even said boo yet, and I see the director, and he has this look on, like, and as soon as he made eye contact, I got this.
Oh, wow.
And right away I'm going, okay, A, I'm not what he's looking for. B, I obviously remind him of his ex-wife that is now suing him for every cent he has. Right. And this is all going in a flash, as you know, John. It happens. It just goes through, and you just go, got to do what I got to do. I mean, there's times where you kind of want to go, should I just leave?
Yeah.
I just, you do want to, but you go through it.
Yeah, you got to keep going.
You just keep going, and you walk out, and you start. Those ones I find easier, because it's like, okay, that one's out of my hand, because before you even opened your mouth, you were out. And so that sort of relieves you of, as long, you know what I mean, that it was something else, and it wasn't me. It wasn't what I did. But it's still, I mean, that's your ego, right? It's our ego. And you can't change that. All we can do is the best we can do.
Right.
And hope, you can change their minds. That's all we can do. And it's a hard one. It's a hard one for the young ones. Like when younger actors are asking me, how do you do it? I said, you got to really have a thick skin. And it's hard.
Man.
It doesn't matter how many years later, it still gets you, because it's still your person.
Yeah.
But all you can do is trust and know that whatever you've done is your best, and just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Because out of 100 auditions, you might get one, or at least a callback of one out of at least 100. At
least. Yeah. It's all numbers. My acting coach used to always tell me, your job is not to get the role. Your job is to get auditions.
Correct.
Just get auditions. That's
Yeah.
it. I'm a short Puerto Rican from the Bronx, right? So when I would walk into a room and there'd be like wall to wall short Puerto Ricans in there. They all look like me. And I can't tell you how your heart sinks when you walk into a room and like you kind of see your type. Now they didn't all look like me, but you see your type, and you're just like, oh God, it's like, why? It's like,
well, it's everywhere, right? It's like,
it's everywhere, yeah.
And I'm constantly changing my hair for whatever the role is.
Yeah.
But walking into a room with, Caucasian females in this age bracket, all of them blonde, you might get the odd sprinkling, but it's like you say, I am so grateful to be in this room and to be included and to audition. And that's how you have to look at it. Sadly, nowadays, you don't even get that opportunity because, as you know, John, and I'm sure even in other lines of work with you, George, the same thing is that you can walk in and they might have a preconceived idea, especially if it's the writer, of what they want and what they're looking for physically for that role. But you do your audition because they have to honor your time in that room. You do that audition. And it's happened to me where they've gone, you know what? We were actually wanting a man for this role and I got the role.
Wow. Look at that.
So it's little things like that.
Little things, yeah.
Nowadays, and this is what we have to tell the younger ones, and it's also hard for us older ones to get used to that again. Now they're sitting in Video Village because they're on a quick lunch break, so they're still at Video Village, they're eating, and they've got, on their iPad, auditions coming in for the next episode or whatever. And now instead of seeing what they're doing, they look and they'll hear, hi, I'm Teryl, I'm 5 foot, and it's like, no, wrong look. And then it's swipe, 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 swipe. So you can be auditioning for 12 pages. And I'm not just saying this because I'm surmising it. I also have very dear friends that are behind the scenes that are doing that very thing, that are my friends. And I say, tell me the truth. It's what happens, right? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you have to think, well, what do I have to slate now standing on my head? Like what, you know what I'm saying? But you also have to just trust that one of those times they're going to go, yeah, that's the look. I'll put that aside. Let's watch that one.
Yeah. And I think there's also a little bit of the video auditioning now, sending in videotapes and stuff like that, kind of changed it a little bit in respect where people they have more options to look at it, faster. I mean, the swiping thing is, even though it is faster, even though it's not pleasant to see yourself feeling like some Tinder chick, and like zoom, swipe, but at least there's a chance, and you have what do you have, 2 seconds maybe to just kind of capture somebody, with whatever it is. The more times you put yourself in that swipe, the better chance you get.
Absolutely.
That's
And like you just said, it also opens the door for more people because before there'd be a certain amount of people who would be, sitting in that waiting room to go in and audition. Now it's opening it up to people in all sorts of different places, countries even, all, sending in their tapes. So that's a plus. Another plus, are you in LA now?
No, I'm actually in Nashville.
Oh,
I'm originally from New York, and so I moved
living in Nashville. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, there you go. When you're in the city running around trying to find a parking spot, Nashville, it's so humid. The humidity in the summer is that, especially for a woman, your makeup is melting, the hair, you can spend all this time curling it and it's flat. And you're rushing in going, oh my God, and you don't even have time, and beads of sweat, and then you do the audition. Now, I don't have to hustle. I don't have to go in an hour in advance trying to find parking. I don't have to run and get caught in a thunderstorm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like anything in life. There's always going to be the pros. There's always going to be the cons, and it's dependent upon how we want to look at things.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times in New York, running from one audition to another, I walk in looking like I've been smoking crack for a week.
Yeah.
Just
right?
Right.
Sweating and throwing water on my
armpits and Jesus.
And you're like, I'm sorry, I just came from uptown and I had to run here, But yeah, I mean, there is a joy of that also, because I did enjoy some of that running around as
Well, it's
well.
part of the thing. It's
But
the
it's
adrenaline.
yeah, that's exactly right. It's part of the journey. George, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm.
That's okay. I wanted to kind of.
Hogging.
It's okay. I'm so used to you, my friend. This is how many years of this, really?
Yeah.
Just cutting me off.
All right.
um, so I want to ask you about, because I heard an interview with you where you talked about that growing up, you were a person that asked a lot of questions, life questions, that you really got into philosophy and just the existential questions, and I'm assuming that's what led you to more of your coaching and what you're doing now and helping people and that type of thing. Because I'm the same exact way. John is that way as well. We've always felt a bit different in the fact that we've never looked at life like so many other people do. Like, I grew up a Catholic, for example. This is fine. Like that's that old joke that George Carlin says, I grew up Catholic until I reached the age of reason. But
Yes.
but I mean, Catholicism, it's great. But what I'm saying is that I asked so many questions as I got older that I said, you know what, there's got to be more to life. There's got to be more. There's got to be another spiritual part of this that I need to know. And I know you have gotten into that. Tell us a little bit about that journey for you.
Oh, it's huge. I can totally agree with both of you. I always questioned things. I just simply couldn't take things at face value. I grew up Catholic. I went to a private Catholic school. I cannot tell you, gentlemen, how many times I got sent home from religion class because I would question everything.
Right.
I never, what was it, Sister? I shouldn't even say it. It's nasty. I can't remember her name, but we called her Sister Tank. It's terrible. Isn't that horrible? That is so politically incorrect.
And yet here we are laughing.
And here we are laughing. Sister Tank. Oh man, she would punch you. She gave so many of my friends. Yeah. Anyway, but I'd be in religion class, and I remember her going on about only Catholics. And again, I forgive anybody who, whatever your faith is, I'm just simply relaying a story from when I was 13. But how only Catholics would go to heaven. The Protestants don't get to go to heaven.
Wow,
and everybody would sit and listen. And I'd be in my little skirt, my little tie, right? I'd be like, hand going. And she'd go begrudgingly, yes, Teryl, how can you say that? How can you say that? Do you not realize I have so many friends that are also Protestant or whatever they are? And they're really good people, sister. They're really good people. So how can you say they're not going to go to heaven? How can you? Ouch. Wow. I never got an answer. I'd get sent out and I'd go home, and Granny would go, religion class again. I go, yes. And then, I'd go back, and then Father Kinney was talking about, we were in another class, and it was about animals, that animals don't go to heaven, right? Because they don't have a soul. Oh. Hands up, going again, and she would try and ignore me, but it was like, caught it, right? So, yes, Teryl. And I would like, how can you say that? Now the tears. When I would lose my animals, my grandmother always said, don't you worry, you will see them again in heaven. And I said, you say that they don't have a soul, sister? If they didn't have a soul, then they'd be standing there like a stuffed animal because they wouldn't be able to move. They'd have no life. They'd have no breath. How can you say that? Out I go again. Out. Right?
Wow. That's so amazing.
Constantly second guessing. So yes, searching, and always believing. I would always believe there was something greater than what this is. Always.
Yes.
And even though I am most definitely a lapsed Catholic, probably because I'm forbidden.
Still getting kicked out of religion.
Kicked out of religion so many times. But I always had such a strong faith in a higher power, and that has not changed at all.
Right. I think that's really the key element. And also, I don't know if you agree to this, but like being also an actor and studying human condition, you kind of get to understand that people are all different, even if they're all in the same religion. every single individual there has a different idea, different viewpoint, different path. So it's to just even to put you into one thing sometimes is a little bit, but studying acting for me was very spiritual.
Mhm.
You know, it's very spiritual for
Yeah.
me. It was like you're really studying somebody, even though that character you may be playing is an atheist, you still understand
Right.
that there is something there. There is an energy there that you can't deny, you know, whatever
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
energy
Yes.
is. So in your coaching, you know, do you utilize, I'm sure you do, some of your actual acting, you know, talents, training into your into it, or is it a completely separate thing?
It's not. I don't think anything really is completely separate because it's all
Hmm.
snippets of who we are.
Right. Right.
For me, I always had this thing where I was always, I would sometimes hear things or see things, and I'd be like, no, no, that's nothing,
Hmm.
no, and that sort of thing, and all of these different experiences made me go, what else is out there? And so I'd always, my friends, we'd always want to go to the girls anyway, we'd go for lunches and have our tarot cards read, or
Oh,
we
yeah.
were shooting Chesapeake Shore. There was this fantastic little tea place that we loved, and we'd go and get our cards read, or that sort of thing. And over the years of just doing this for fun and enjoying it, it was just like a fun thing. I would always be told, you are a healer. You have no idea what you're able to do. You really need to look into this more. And I
Wow.
always thought of it as, well, and I still do. Healing is from what I do as an actor as well, because I get to be part of a show. Somebody watches that show. And that, again, is being a part of the storytelling process, that it touches them in some way. It makes them think in some way. It brings them joy. It brings them tears. It might help them remember an issue or something that they can relate to down the road. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Yes.
there's always a part of that. So I used to think, well, yeah, that's a part of healing, because I mean, that's what the writer thinks when he's writing or she
Right.
is writing. And I get to breathe life into that character in this particular, show, that kind of thing. But I started to look into it more, and I would always have this thing with my hands where I could feel the energy. I mean, we all can. It's, we can all do that exercise. And so I got into something. I really took it to heart, because it was so many times of hearing this that they were like, you need to do something with this. So I took this course, and I now have a level 1-2 in what is called therapeutic touch. And then from there, it's just like healing. It's like a Reiki, a moving of the energy. And then finding this woman, a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, told me about going into a session with this person who was quite fantastic and relied on intuition and was getting, feedback from her guides, or the person she was dealing with guide, and was able to reach out and found something from her sister, who actually had been murdered a number of years earlier.
Oh, wow.
And so she was like, I just really believe in this person. I was like, oh my gosh, I had to go see this person. And I have not looked back. I've been working with her steady. And she would say, you do know. And I would say, thank you. Yes, I hear this all the time. I'm just not ready yet. And she finally, I would take all these courses and courses until I finally decided that I was going to go full in and become certified. So I am now a certified intuitive coach, and that's how I do it. And it's just
Wow.
relying on
Yeah.
what I get, things that I see, things that I hear.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. And it's my way of giving back. I love the joy I get from acting and being able to touch another person, and the joy I get from watching somebody come in with, we're such tortured souls, all of us. We all have stuff. And to be able to help them see it and, perhaps guide them somewhere where they can heal that portion, like in any way. I love being of service, and I love seeing people heal. I've been like that my entire life. If somebody was hurt, I'd be the first one out the door with a blanket before 911 came to help in whatever way I could.
Yeah.
I'm the first one to stop in the middle of traffic. And I mean, it's insane, really. I pray my child never does it. But, in the middle of traffic, because there's a dog running loose, we need to save this dog.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's always been who I am, but I never really thought about it before. I just thought I was some really crazy person. But I always wanted to help. So yeah, that's
love
what that's all about.
You know, I mean, the whole purpose of art is to really heal and to make people feel good. That is what art is. It's why we even created. I mean, it just kind of dawned on me that you wouldn't create anything unless you wanted to make someone else feel good.
Well, look at you too with your music, even, right?
Yeah,
How
you know,
music
it's like,
heals.
Yes,
music is it's. I mean, yeah, for me, music is everything. I mean, we grew up listening to everything together, and you get a feeling of that you can accomplish something when you listen to a piece of music that takes you somewhere. I feel that it elevates you to a higher tone where you can actually then accept the universe around you and feel better, and then you can confront that problem, or you can confront that thing that's, you know, creating some kind of a darkness in your world, because a piece of art brought you to a place. And when you were saying about, you know, when you're in your acting and on your shows, yeah, the writer's intention was to create a conflict of something that will create, that would be real to an audience, and then give a person a viewpoint, you know, and maybe a shift their viewpoint in a way and be like, you know what, I did that once and maybe I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I should do that, you know. And that's such a major thing. And I love art. And, you know, you talked about goosebumps earlier, and now look at me, I got, you
I
know, I
love
get
it.
the same thing when I talk about things like this, because it's so important what we do.
And that's, you know, that also goes to, remember we had William B. Davis on the show, and we were talking to him about acting, and he talked about the why. He talked about, you know, forget about learning your lines. Why is this character doing this? What's the reason? You have to get that first and then get the lines later. And it just completely changed. And that's his method of acting, and that's what he teaches. And I think it's amazing.
Yeah,
I think so. It's
absolutely.
great. It's great. So let me see. I'm gonna make sure. I do apologize that I got that note wrong.
What note?
So the Cedar
Look at
Cove.
that. She forgot it already.
Yeah,
I know. Why'd you bring it up?
And I bring it up, right? Goes to show you how smooth I am. So let's talk about how I screwed up earlier.
That's gonna stay with him for the rest of the day, from when he's sleeping.
I may need to actually book a session.
You guys crack me up. Oh my gosh.
We want to thank you so much for taking the time. One of the things that we, I mean, it's almost like 47 minutes that we've been.
It's
been
amazing
on.
how time
It's
flies
like,
on this
whoosh.
show.
I know this has been great. I feel like I've known you two
Oh,
forever.
thank you. Yeah, this is
absolutely.
awesome. Thank you so
great.
much. I wanted to ask you, our audience members, they're usually, what we ask our guests is, you know, the last 2 years have been challenging to say the least. What's one of the an artist out there, you know, with the whole self-taping? Some people have actually stopped. I know actor friends that have not gone to one audition, even a self-tape, because they might get it, and then they got to show up, you know, and they're still nervous about that. So there's a lot of pain and a lot of concerns, insecurities going on. What words of advice would you have to an audience, you know, to anyone out there? It doesn't, not necessarily actors or performers, but anyone really, you know, on the next phase and how moving forward is really a helpful way.
With regards, now I have to ask you for the clarity. With regards to auditioning, or with regards to living?
Living.
Really, I mean, we're all in this together, right? It's
Right.
Things have changed.
Yeah.
We said this, you know, when 9/11 occurred, God rest every one of their souls and all the families left behind. But things have changed, and we're going to continue to change. So we have to decide as humans, what do we do? Do we want to sit in fear? We want to live in fear. Or do we want to live life to the fullest? Because I believe God, universe, whatever you choose to believe in, we're here for a reason, and it is to live, and it is to learn, it is to help, it is to grow. So that's the choice. It is, you know, everybody's individual choice how they want to live it. I choose to be cautious. Obviously, I'm not going to throw my, you know, caution to the wind and be silly, but I live my life. I teach my daughter to live her life, and this is the way it is now. So we continue. I mean, you think back to history, go back into history. How did people deal with, you know, the plague and I mean, and the Spanish flu, like all of the wars? Think about it. You know,
Yeah.
everybody forged ahead, and that's why we're here on this planet for, you know, we're in 2022 now. So
Yeah. To me, thank you so much for that. So Teryl, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a pleasure. Please, we're going to follow you. We're going to make sure that we keep track of all the shows and everything premiering. And of course, I don't know if you're on social media, but if you are on social media, it's probably on the on your
it'll
website.
be on,
there.
on
Yep.
Instagram. And
So make sure you get it. All the information will be down there. A bio will be down there. And thank you so much. Give us like 30 seconds. We're going to close out the show. We'll come right back. But thank you so much. This has
Thank
been
you both very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. That was so cool.
Amazing, huh? Amazing.
I just love it, man, because it's just like that's what it's all about, right there. You know?
Every time we do this, it's just it completely just uplifts you, and
I know,
you have
and
artists like that who are just.
It gives me clarity.
Yes,
it gives me clarity.
exactly.
I hope that gives everyone out there watching. I hope it gives you clarity as well. We love to bring you these shows. We will see you again very, very soon. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care of yourselves. For John, I'm John actually.
You're John.
For John and for George. For George and for John. And for Counterparts, we'll see you all.